It was a cold and lonely night. Luca was driving through the dark forest road when he saw her. A quiet girl walking alone, holding a clay pot in her hands. He stopped to help her, but that single moment changed everything. Because what he met that night was not just a girl, it was something that didn't belong to this world. This is The Girl with the Clay Pot, a dark love story told in simple English. To help you learn English through horror storytelling, stay till the end. Because love like this never dies. It was a cold and lonely night. The moon was hidden behind thick clouds, and the road was empty. Luca was driving home after a long day. The air was heavy, and a strange silence filled the night. His car headlights cut through the fog, showing only the narrow road ahead. After a few minutes, Luca noticed something strange, a young girl walking alone on the side of the road. She was dressed in a long white dress and holding a small clay pot close to her chest. Her hair was long and dark, moving with the wind. Luca slowed down his car and stopped beside her. He rolled down the window and asked softly, "Do you need help?" "It's late. I can drop you somewhere." The girl looked at him for a moment. Her eyes were calm but full of sadness. She nodded slowly and said, "Yes. I need to go to the old village near the hill." Luca opened the door and told her to sit. As she entered, the air inside the car turned cold. Luca felt a strange chill down his spine. He turned on the heater, but it didn't help. They drove in silence for a while. Luca tried to start a conversation, but the girl spoke very little. Her voice was soft, almost like a whisper. After some time, she pointed ahead and said, "Stop here." Luca stopped the car. In front of them stood an old broken house. It looked abandoned and dark. Before he could ask anything, the girl got out of the car. She walked toward the house, still holding the clay pot. When Luca blinked, she was gone, vanished into the darkness. Luca sat frozen, staring at the empty road, wondering, who was that girl? Luca drove home that night, but his mind was not at peace. The image of that girl stayed in his head, her pale face, her sad eyes, and the way she disappeared into the darkness. He kept asking himself, was she real or just my imagination? The next day, Luca couldn't focus on anything. At work, he kept thinking about the girl with the clay pot. He wanted to know who she was and why she was walking alone so late at night. Finally, he decided to go back to the same road. When night came again, Luca drove through the foggy countryside. The road looked the same, dark, quiet, and lonely. He slowed down near the place where he had first seen her. His heart beat fast, half afraid, half hopeful. Then, through the mist, he saw a familiar figure. The same girl was standing by the roadside, holding her clay pot tightly in her hands. She looked exactly as before, calm, silent, and lost in her thoughts. Luca stopped the car and stepped out. "Hey," he said softly, "I saw you last night. Are you okay?" The girl turned slowly toward him. Her expression didn't change much. After a moment, she whispered, "You shouldn't be here." Luca frowned. "Why not?" he asked, taking a small step closer. She looked at him with deep, sad eyes and said, "This road is not safe for people like you. Go before it's too late." Before Luca could say another word, a cold wind blew across the road. The fog thickened, and when he looked again, the girl was gone. Luca's hands began to shake. He turned back toward his car, his heart pounding. He didn't know what was happening, but one thing was clear: he had to find out who she was. The following night, Luca couldn't stay home. His thoughts were filled with the mysterious girl. He didn't understand why, but something about her pulled him back, like a secret he needed to uncover. Once again, he drove down the same dark road. The wind was cold, and fog moved across the fields like white smoke. The silence felt heavier than before. Luca's heart pounded with both fear and excitement. And then, he saw her again, the girl with the clay pot, standing under an old tree, her white dress glowing faintly in the moonlight. Without thinking twice, Luca stopped the car and called out, "Hey, I'm not here to harm you. Please talk to me." The girl looked at him quietly. After a long pause, she walked toward the car and said softly, "I need to go to the old road by the river." Luca nodded and opened the door. She sat beside him, holding the clay pot close to her heart. The air inside the car turned cold again. Luca could see her reflection in the window. Her face was calm, but her eyes looked empty. Trying to break the silence, Luca asked, "What's your name?" She smiled faintly and whispered, "You can call me Alara." Her voice was gentle, but there was pain behind it. Luca wanted to ask more, but something inside told him to stay quiet. They drove through the fog, the headlights cutting through the darkness. Suddenly, Alara said, "Stop here." Luca stopped near a small bridge. When he turned to look at her, she was gone. The passenger seat was empty, and the door hadn't opened. His heart froze. He looked around, but the night was silent. Only the clay pot was left on the seat, still warm, as if someone had just been holding it. Luca couldn't sleep that night. The image of the empty seat and the clay pot kept flashing in his mind. How could she vanish like that? He wanted to believe it was all a dream, but the pot sitting beside him was proof it was real. The next evening, he decided to go back once more. He placed the clay pot in the car, thinking maybe he could return it to her. As he drove through the cold fog, the same strange feeling filled the air. When he reached the end of the road, he saw something in the distance, an old, broken house standing alone near the forest. Its windows were shattered, the walls covered with black stains, and the gate creaked in the wind. It looked lifeless, but Luca somehow knew this was her place. He parked the car and slowly stepped out. The ground was wet, and every step made a soft, crunching sound. The air smelled of dust and old wood. He called out, "Alara, are you here?" There was no answer, only the whisper of wind passing through the trees. Then, from the doorway of the ruined house, a faint light appeared, like a candle burning in the dark. Luca's heartbeat grew faster. He walked closer, holding the clay pot tightly. As he reached the door, he heard a soft humming, a woman's voice singing an old, sad tune. When he peeked inside, he saw her. Alara was standing near a broken window, her back turned to him, whispering to the clay pot as if talking to someone inside it. "Who are you talking to?" Luca asked in fear. Alara turned slowly. Her face was pale, and tears ran down her cheeks. "To the one I lost," she said softly. "And maybe, to the one I've found again." After that night, Luca couldn't get Alara out of his mind. Her pale face, her sad eyes, the way she whispered to the clay pot, everything haunted him. He tried to convince himself that it was just a ghost story, something his mind made up, but deep inside, he knew she was real. Days passed, but Luca stopped meeting friends and barely went to work. Every evening, he sat in his car, staring at the old road in the distance. His heart wanted to see her again, even though his mind screamed it was dangerous. Finally, one night, he couldn't control himself. He drove to the same road again. The fog was thicker and the air colder than before. When he reached near the broken house, he saw the faint light inside once more. He walked to the door and called softly, "Alara, it's me, Luca." The door opened slowly on its own. Alara stood there, holding her clay pot. Her face looked the same, beautiful yet sorrowful. "You came back," she said quietly. "I had to," Luca replied. "I don't know why, but I can't stop thinking about you." A tear rolled down her cheek. "People shouldn't care for me. I bring nothing but pain." "I don't care," Luca said firmly. "I just want to understand you." Alara smiled faintly. "Understanding me means entering my curse." Luca took a step closer. "Then let me be part of it." For a moment, the air around them turned cold, and the candlelight flickered wildly. Alara looked deeply into his eyes and whispered, "You are not afraid of me?" He smiled nervously. "Maybe I should be, but I'm not." That night marked the beginning of something dark, an obsession that would soon cost Luca far more than he imagined. The next night, Luca returned again to the old, broken house. He didn't even know why he kept going. Maybe it was love, or maybe a strange power pulling him closer to Alara. Each time he saw her, his fear slowly faded, replaced by curiosity and affection. That night, the wind was strong, and the trees moved like shadows in the dark. Luca carried a lantern with him and stepped into the house. Inside, it was silent and cold. Dust covered the floor and spider webs hung from the ceiling. "Elara," he called softly. A whisper came from behind him. "I knew you would come again." He turned around. She was standing there, her white dress glowing faintly in the dim light. For a moment, she looked human, peaceful. Luca smiled in relief. But suddenly, the light of his lantern flickered. The air grew icy, and the smell of something burnt filled the room. When he looked at Elara again, her face had started to change. Her eyes turned dark red, her skin grew pale like ashes, and her lips stretched into a chilling smile. Her hair moved slowly, even though there was no wind. The clay pot in her hands cracked slightly, and a strange black smoke began to rise from it. Luca stepped back in fear, whispering, What are you?" Elara's voice echoed, soft but filled with pain. "I was human once. I lived here. I was betrayed, killed, and cursed to wander forever." Tears rolled down her ghostly face. "This clay pot holds what's left of me." Luca stood frozen, heart pounding. He wanted to run, but something in her voice kept him there. Elara looked at him sadly and said, "Now that you've seen my truth, you can never forget me." After seeing Elara's true form, Luca was terrified. He spent the whole night shaking, unable to forget her red eyes and ghostly smile. But even with all the fear inside him, his heart still longed for her. He didn't understand it. How could he care for something not human? Days went by, and Luca tried to stay away, but something kept calling him back. Every night, he heard her voice in his dreams, soft, broken, and full of sadness. "Luca, come back." One night, unable to resist, he returned to the crooked road again. The fog was thick, and the air felt heavy. When he reached the old house, Elara was waiting outside, standing under the pale moonlight, her clay pot shining faintly in her hands. "I thought you wouldn't come," she said in a low voice. "I tried not to," Luca replied, "but I can't forget you." Elara looked at him with sorrow. "You shouldn't love me. My soul is trapped in this world. I can never cross to the other side." Luca stepped closer. "Then I'll stay here with you." Her eyes widened in disbelief. "If you stay, you'll never be free again. You'll become like me, a shadow of what you once were." He smiled sadly. "Then let me be your shadow." Tears fell from her eyes, but she smiled softly. "Love is both a blessing and a curse, Luca. And now it's too late." As the moonlight dimmed, a cold wind surrounded them. The clay pot in her hands began to glow, and Luca felt his heart grow colder, his body weaker. That night, he crossed the line between the living and the dead, forever bound to the girl with the clay pot. After that night, Luca stopped fearing Elara. He knew she was not alive, but her loneliness touched his heart. Every night, he came to see her at the broken house. Sometimes they sat by the window, sometimes they walked along the empty road under the moonlight. For Luca, those moments felt real, even if the world said it was impossible. Elara began to open up about her past. Her voice trembled every time she spoke of it. "Long ago," she said, "I lived in this very house. I was engaged to a man who promised to love me forever. But one night, he betrayed me. He wanted my family's wealth. When I found out, he took me to this road and ended my life." Luca's heart broke as he listened. "That's horrible," he whispered. Elara nodded slowly, her eyes glowing faintly in the dark. "Before I died, I held this clay pot. It was supposed to carry the ashes of our future, the promise we made to stay together forever. But when he killed me, my soul stayed trapped inside it." Luca looked at the pot carefully. It had cracks and strange marks on it, as if it had survived fire. "So your spirit is inside this pot?" he asked softly. "Yes," Elara replied. "This pot binds me to this place. I cannot leave it, and no living person should touch it. If someone does, their soul begins to fade too." Luca's hand froze. He remembered. The first time he saw her vanish, she had left the pot in his car. He had touched it. Ilara looked at him sadly. "You've already touched it, haven't you?" Luca nodded slowly. Her face turned pale with grief. "Then it has begun, Luca. You're part of my curse now." Luca could no longer hide from the truth. The curse had already started. His body was weaker, his hands colder, and at night he saw shadows following him, the same kind of darkness that surrounded Ilara. But he didn't care anymore. His love for her was stronger than his fear. One evening, he decided to end the pain once and for all. He drove to the old house for the last time. The night was darker than ever. The moon was hidden, and the wind howled through the trees like a warning. When he reached the house, Ilara was standing outside, holding the clay pot close to her chest. Her face was sad, her eyes filled with tears. "Why did you come again, Luca?" she asked in a trembling voice. "Because I can't live without you," he said softly. "You're all I think about. If I'm cursed, then let me stay cursed, but with you." Ilara shook her head. "You don't understand. Once your soul joins mine, you can never return to the living. You'll be trapped in the shadows forever." Luca stepped closer, took her cold hand in his, and smiled. "Then I'll stay in the shadows, as long as you're there with me." For a long moment, she just stared at him, her eyes full of both love and sorrow. Then she whispered, "If that's your choice, it cannot be undone." The wind blew harder, and the clay pot began to glow. A bright light surrounded them. Luca felt his body grow light, almost weightless, as if his spirit was leaving the world behind. Ilara's last words echoed in the air, "Now we are one, forever." When the light faded, the house stood silent again, empty and cold. The next morning, the villagers noticed something strange near the old crooked road. Luca's car was parked by the side, the engine still warm, the driver's door wide open, but Luca was nowhere to be found. His phone lay on the seat, still recording a voice note that ended with his last words, "I'm going to her. I'm not afraid anymore." The police searched the area for days, but found nothing. There were no footprints, no signs of struggle, only a small clay pot, lying in the middle of the road, cracked and covered in ash. No one dared to touch it. Rumors spread quickly through the village. Some said Luca had gone mad and run away. Others whispered that the spirit of a woman had taken him, the same woman people had seen walking alone on foggy nights for years. As days turned into weeks, strange things began to happen. Travelers driving that same road at night claimed to see a girl in white, holding a clay pot, walking silently along the roadside. Some even said they saw a young man walking beside her, his face pale, his eyes calm, his hand holding hers. Those who dared to stop their cars felt a sudden coldness and heard a whisper, "Love never dies." No one travels that road after midnight anymore. The old house near the forest stands abandoned, yet sometimes people say they hear two voices, one male, one female, talking softly inside. And when the moon is full, villagers say you can see them both standing near the gate, Ilara and Luca, side by side, their bodies glowing faintly under the moonlight. They say it's not just a haunting, it's a love story that never found peace. They say love is the most powerful feeling in the world, strong enough to break hearts, change lives, and sometimes even cross the line between life and death. Luca didn't fear the darkness. He didn't fear the ghost. Because what he found in Ilara was something beyond fear. It was love, pure but cursed. And even though the world believes he vanished forever, maybe, he finally found peace in the only place he truly belonged, beside her. So if you ever drive down a lonely, foggy road and see a girl in white holding a clay pot, don't stop. Because love stories like theirs never really end. If you enjoyed this story, don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe for more dark love and horror tales. Every night brings a new story, and sometimes a new nightmare.